Today we're talking with Hallie Shoffner, CEO of SFR Feed, which I thought y'all were in Newport, Arkansas, but y'all are actually in
Shoffner, Arkansas.
Shoffner, Arkansas.
Yes.
So, and I mean, you've lived there your whole life.
Yeah.
Right. So what's it like growing up in a town that has the same name as you do?
Well, there's not much to do. It's like population 10 and we're all related,
Right.
you know. It's got a lot of history. I mean, we have an old cotton gin that's got our name on it. I mean, it hasn't been running since the 80s, but it was built in 37. Okay. That's what we did for the longest time. You know, starting in the mid-1800s, we just started gin and cotton. Mm-hmm. And the railroad built a switch so the cars could pull off at the gin. They called it Shoffner Switch, and eventually the town got big enough to incorporate. We had a post office and a mercantile, and we had a lumber yard, but it's kind of gone the way of most rural places.
Yeah, most railroad towns.
Yeah, so it's not much there now.
Right, and so 6 generations. That's, I mean, the mid-1800s. So, I mean, y'all's family, you have eat, breathed, and slept farming for as long as you can remember. What's it like growing up in a farm family that is that rooted in the lifestyle?
You don't know anything different. I mean, you just sort of think that this is how everybody lives. And it wasn't until I went to college and realized, people don't know what farming is. Most people do not have, there's such a wide gulf in between, you know, consumers and farmers that most people haven't the slightest idea what happens in the places where food is grown. I didn't know that until I went to college. And I was like, oh, yeah, nobody knows what farmers do. Also, farmers are like 1% of the population, 1% of the workforce. Right. So it was a shock for me to realize that so many people don't know anything about farming. Right. I just thought everybody did.
Yeah, I kind of get that coming from Cave City. I every now and then here at the office, I talk about watermelons. And people are like, why, we don't understand. Like, why do you care so much? And I'm like, oh, well, that's where I come from. It's watermelons 24/7.
Right, so yeah. Most people never see a watermelon in the field.
Absolutely, yeah. Nobody knows what it's like to toss them up onto the truck in the middle of July.
My dad, we used to do some watermelons. My dad, when he was a kid, they would harvest watermelons and throw it into a big bob truck and take it to Memphis to sell. He, to this day, will not eat watermelon. Because one day they ate so many watermelons, they all got sick. And so he refuses to eat watermelon. Yeah. And so every time Lent comes around and you're supposed to give something up, right? He says, I'm going to give up watermelon this year. And I'm like, Dad,
it's an easy one. Yeah, you're taking the easy way out. So you said you went to college and you kind of, I think it's the same for everybody. Your horizons got broadened. What'd you study in college? What did you?
I studied literature. So, yeah, real relevant to what I do now. Right. I like to read. I had no idea what I wanted to do. My parents very much said, you need to leave and go do something else. I don't know that they ever really wanted me to farm because it's hard. It's really hard. And I don't really think I had an inclination to farm until I left and did a couple other things and realized that I loved farming. It's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So
what was that? I mean, do you remember, was there like a lightning bolt moment? I mean, was there, I mean, do you remember that moment of, I need to go back and do that?
Yeah. And I don't remember exactly, it was in 2016. My dad needed to retire. It was time. And my parents basically said, we're going to have to shut it down. And there's no one to take it. We're just going to shut it down. And I thought, well, I could do it. And they was like, okay, well, if you really want to. And so I started, and that was it. It was just, okay, this is what I do. This is what I do now. And I love being my own boss. I really do like that part. I have a lot of autonomy. I have a really great team behind me. But it's easy to make decisions.
Right, I completely understand.
When you're at the top of the food chain.
Yeah, and so going from college to 2016, I mean, did you have another career before you? I mean, what did you use that lit degree for?
I feel like I had a lot of careers. Right. So in college, I traveled quite a bit. I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do to make a difference in the world. I did go to the Clinton School of Public Service. Okay. So I did that right after I graduated college. In college, I did a couple different things. I lived in India for a while and taught English in Kolkata, which is previously Calcutta. I lived in Seattle for a while and did fundraising for an environmental group, a lobbying group. And I went to the Clinton School with the intention of working in the nonprofit public policy space. I ran a nonprofit after that for a little while, Hispanic Outreach Community Center. Didn't love nonprofit work, so I decided I'd go into marketing communications. I tried a mayoral campaign.
Interesting.
I did some marketing plans with the Department of Health, with Arkansas Single Parent Scholarship Fund. I worked for an agency that worked with all of these groups. I did a lot of grant writing, responses to RFQs and RFPs, and I worked for a company that did nonprofit procurement for a while.
Okay. Yeah. That's a wide range.
Yeah, it was very much communications and writing focus, which I guess makes sense. I had a lit degree in Clinton School of Public Service. And when my parents asked me to come back, I guess they didn't really ask. I was just sort of like, well, I could do this. A lot of that translated.
Yeah.
I think especially the Clinton School work. I mean, I did a lot of program development and evaluation, strategic planning. Public administration is not all that different from business, honestly.
Right. Okay.
Same moving parts. And I still get to make a difference because I get to talk about the things that are important to me, like, the extreme weather we're experiencing and what we can do about it.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, it sounds like you're kind of painting a picture. We're talking to 6 farmers, and Arkansas PBS continues to talk to farmers around the state. You're not your average Arkansas farmer. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of an interesting resume you have behind your farm work. And I think we can probably take that a step farther to say SFR Seed isn't your average Arkansas farm either. Y'all are kind of a unique situation. So what do y'all do that maybe sets y'all apart from other?
So we are primarily into, I guess it's pre-commercial soybean research. Okay. So we work with companies and universities on soybean varieties that have been bred to have different qualities. Perhaps the soybean variety performs well in heavier clay soil versus a sandy soil, or perhaps this particular soybean variety is drought tolerant. Mm-hmm. Very important this season. Right. And we will take those into the field. We will grow them. We will evaluate them in season, watch for any kind of disease issues, disease pressures. We'll do yield evaluations at harvest, and we'll send all that data back to the company. At the end of the year, companies say, yes, we like this one. No, we don't like that one. We'll clean it and package it, and we will ship it to wherever it's going to be grown that next year. Or we'll hold it back. We can grow it the next year too.
Right.
But this is all pre-commercial work. This is very much in the companies are breeding thousands and thousands of varieties every year. Right. This is just part of the selection of, here is a variety that a farmer can grow that will produce more with less. Right. And that's the idea, right? Farmers want to produce more using fewer inputs, spending less money, using less ground. That's the goal. Makes you more money and is actually environmentally more friendly.
Right.
If you think about it, because biotechnology is one of the greatest tools we have in our belt in terms of helping mitigate climate risks.
So, it kind of sounds like, you went to college and you saw not a lot of people know about farming. Do you feel that a lot of farmers know about what y'all are doing on your farm? Is this kind of a common?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think the farmers definitely want to take advantage of new traits, new genetics on the market. We're constantly looking for new things. And companies are coming out with new varieties every year, and farmers want to know more about them. They want to try them out, plant them, and we are pretty well known in the area because there just really aren't that many of us in terms of research farms like us.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Are there many more research farms in Arkansas? Is this a common?
No, there aren't that many in the industry, period.
Right, absolutely.
So it's hard work,
right.
honestly. Some of the varieties we grow might only be less than a quarter of an acre.
Right.
And you have to have special equipment to work with varieties that are that small.
And y'all are a 1,500 acre farm.
We are, which is small for
Right.
the area. I mean, we're talking 8, 10, 20,000 acre farms.
Right.
But we're large for a research farm.
Absolutely.
We also work with rice.
Okay.
We grow specialty varieties of rice. The most common is Carolina Gold. It's the most well known. It's a medium grain. It's a rice that's eaten in restaurants on the east and west coast. And we are responsible for purifying the seed, so ensuring that whoever's growing the variety in the Mid-South, whether it's in Texas or South Carolina, that there is always pure seed stock. So someone can call us up and say, hey, I need 50 pounds of Carolina Gold pure seed stock. We'll have it because we maintain it in the field every year.
Right. Awesome. So you were recently, I mean, you kind of spoke about this a little bit, you know, a lot of your efforts now as you learn and adapt are moving towards soil conservation and environmental conservation. So you were actually recently named one of Garden and Gun's champions of conservationism.
Yeah.
What was that like? I mean, where did that kind of come from?
It stems from the rice work that we do. We work with some companies that specialize in the Carolina Gold retail and wholesale industry,
Right.
and our plans for becoming more environmentally friendly in our rice production caught the eye of one of our customers, and he recommended me for the profile.
Awesome.
And I was extremely honored. It was super cool. I went to South Carolina, and they put a dinner on for us at the Garden and Gun offices, and my husband and I took a little mini vacation. We had a good time.
Everybody needs farmers need vacations. That's one lesson I've learned during the podcast. So it's good to take a trip occasionally. So I would think that kind of growing for the seed companies, maybe more than an organic farm or something like that, an all-natural farm, you're still using pesticides in some extent. So, I mean, I know part of your passion is kind of environmental conservatism. So, I mean, how do we kind of rectify these two different lifestyles or ideologies?
Yeah, and something I recognize is the fact that I am a self-proclaimed industrial farmer, right? I grow thousands of acres of 1 or 2 crops, so mono-duo agriculture. We do work ground. We spray thousands of gallons of herbicides. We use thousands of gallons of water. We are not a small organic vegetable farm. To pair that with being an environmentalist or a climate activist, there does seem to be some cognitive dissonance there, right? But that's actually not the case. And I think this goes back to that big gulf between what consumers know about farming, is that you can be a big farm and still be environmentally friendly, still do your part in being good stewards of the land, good stewards of our resources, being a conservationist, and still producing the world's food, which you got to have both. You got to produce food for billions and billions of people.
Right.
You have to try to be environmentally friendly at the same time. Big benefit, big win for us is that there are now things we can do that are not only environmentally friendly, but they save us money.
Right.
And that is really where the rubber meets the road, is how can we save more money and produce more food at the same time?
Right. And so we were talking earlier, maybe, one of these things that you're kind of learning and adapting, maybe saving you some money, is this idea of soil conservation, which Arkansas PBS just kind of wrapped up a major documentary project on soil conservation with our friend Adam Chappell.
Adam's awesome.
So, I mean, what are you learning about? Are you making any changes on the Shoffner farm with these soil practices?
Yeah, and a lot of farmers are. I mean, it's not just us.
Right,
and
absolutely.
I would say that Adam, of course, has been doing it for over a decade. He's got the jump on all of us. But I think a lot of farmers are getting on this bandwagon of nutrient management, which is improving your organic matter, improving your soil fertility, your soil structure. A lot of that is sampling your soil, getting a really full understanding of what your farm looks like, not just field by field, but different sections within the same field. If you know your soil composition in a 40-acre field, and you have spots that need less fertilizer than others, you can use less fertilizer there.
Right.
And I know it's baffling, right? You don't have to blanket the same application of fertilizer over those 40 acres. You can save money, use less synthetic fertilizers, just simply by doing more sampling of your fields.
Right.
Same thing with minimum and no-till, for example. When we go to the field in a normal tillage situation, we harvest, we disc, sometimes twice if we have to, we roll, and then we bed, and then we plant. Well, that's 5 passes in the field. Not only have you dug up the dirt and released all that carbon into the atmosphere, the carbon you need to keep in the soil, you've spent money on labor, wear and tear on your equipment, and your fuel. The goal is, how do we do fewer passes in the field? Minimum and no-till means you either have only 1 or 0 passes before you plant,
right,
which keeps carbon in, saves you money, better for the environment, and it provides a lot of good benefits that could improve your yields, maybe not right away, but down the road.
Right. So it sounds a lot like what kind of Adam has been preaching and folks are picking up is less work in a more exacting, pinpointing problems and applying things exactly where they're needed rather than just kind of general applications.
Right. Precision farming.
Right. Precision farming.
It's technology, and it works really well.
Right. So this year, 2022, we've talked a little bit about climate. I mean, Lord knows the summer was tough on us this year. How have things been on the Shoffner farm? Through, I think in June and July, we went 8 weeks without rain.
It was been, I've never seen so much water pumped into our fields. And when I see it, it's like watching little dollar signs coming out of the poly pipe, washing on down the furrows. That's really it. Is I would go around the farm. I would look at how much water was being pumped. I would get our electric bills and our diesel bills every month, and I would just sit down for a minute and just take a couple of deep breaths here,
right,
and then pay them. It's what's really challenging about extreme weather is the money. It's the fact that farmers don't have a ton of margin, right? Mm-hmm. We do not farm to get rich. You can't do that. You don't farm to get rich. My dad always says, if you'd like to make a small fortune, take a large fortune and farm. And he's not wrong. We have very slim margins to begin with. If you throw in an extreme weather pattern like the drought we had this year, which actually wasn't much different it was a more extreme version of the one we had last year.
Right.
And you throw in all that rain that we had at the very beginning of the year when we were trying to plant, same thing that happened the year before that, and the year before that. This is now the 4th time we've had a wet spring. You put all that together, I mean, that is money. You are just racking up these input costs. You add in the war in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. You add in diesel prices, high fertilizer costs, and that margin, it just gets slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. And that is so tough for farmers who open up their mail, get that bill, look at it, and think, whew, this is going to be tight.
Right.
That's really hard on farmers just mentally as well.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that's what we've been witnessing for 7 months now. It's just kind of, at the beginning of the podcast, we had a handful of farmers who they'd successfully made, I mean, this was their life, we had one gentleman back away from farming in the middle of our podcast. He took a full-time job in town, and so we've got a farm family that they're, there were discussions a couple of months ago of trading in retirement accounts.
Yep.
This is how we're going to survive the summer of just, you hate to ask somebody for a magic bullet. Was there anything going on the Shoffner farm that, any advice you might have for just, because like I said, I do think this was kind of a perfect storm this
right.
summer.
And what's unfortunate is that before this drought, we have had sustainability plans in place, to use more chicken litter as opposed to synthetic fertilizers, to move to minimum till, to start doing cover crops. And then the drought hits and we're like, well, now we got all this nice equity that we were going to use to put into our sustainability plans. Mm-hmm. We're going to need to float us into the next year, right? Mm-hmm. I'm really concerned for farmers who don't have that kind of cushion. That's when you back away from farming. Right. That's when you decide during harvest that you're going to turn back your land and go get a job in town. Mm-hmm. And We are very lucky in that we have cushion. I'm not going to say we have, because really the way farming works, and I saw my parents do this for 30 years, you are going to have bad years. I think it was 2005 and 2009. I saw my parents just almost get wiped out. Mm-hmm. But they had equity, because in the good years, you build up your equity. You have a nice little padding for when you have a bad year, because you know you will eventually, right? What happens when you have a changing climate, like what we have now, is you have more and more bad years and fewer good years to float you through the bad years. You know, that ratio, once you upend that, farmers start struggling in terms of, well, can we afford to do poorly this year? Mm-hmm. Can we afford for a bad crop? And the answer is going to be increasingly no.
Right.
And I understand that we are getting disaster relief from the USDA. I appreciate that. But I don't think farmers want to have to be bailed out.
Right.
I personally don't. I'd like to be able to make my own money. You know, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that in terms of a silver lining is that our policymakers are doing a really good job about prioritizing climate smart ag. Mm-hmm. Because climate smart ag, if you can get a farmer to the infrastructure that they need to do it, then they're saving money. Mm-hmm. And the more money we save, the better we can do, the more resilient we can be in the face of more adverse climate conditions.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, so you're somebody that's come from a long line of it, and you're kind of adapting. You're changing every season. As each season gets more difficult, we're looking at no-till. We're looking at chicken litter. Where might, if a farmer isn't sure about these changes, you talk about getting connected with this infrastructure, who do they need to, who should they be talking to kind of get into this stuff?
The NRCS is probably your best option right now. That recent infrastructure, what was it called? The Inflation Reduction Act. So the Inflation Reduction Act is putting billions of dollars into the USDA, into climate smart ag programs, which are generally administered by the NRCS. We don't really know what that's going to look like. I'm sure we will next year. But the NRCS is the best option in terms of, if you're interested in cover crops or no-till, going to your local conservationist in your county and just asking questions and seeing what's available to you. There are 2 grant programs, cost-sharing programs within the USDA that farmers can take advantage of. They can be complicated sometimes. I hope that gets better as there is more funding. I will say that it looks like with these this push for voluntary conservation practices, we are going to see people prioritizing helping farmers save money in order to weather, no pun intended, some of what's going on right now.
Right. Absolutely. And I think, like I said, our whole project has been kind of centered on farmers' mental health and kind of talking about these real world struggles and this hopelessness, this kind of, I'm waking up every morning and I'm fighting 4 Goliaths and I have no way of, I think so often, and it kind of comes back to that idea of handouts, so often farmers don't want to ask for help, be it mental health, be it changing their practices to get a better crop or to better protect the land. But, I think we're just in a situation where, climate-wise, economy-wise, mental health-wise, a change has to come, right?
Yeah, we're at a turning point, for
right.
sure.
Yeah, and so kind of to wrap up, and like I said, you're a younger farmer in the grand scheme of things, and you've adapted and changed. So, in your eyes, what does the future of farming look like in Arkansas?
I think that we're going to have a lot more adoption of some of these practices, simply because they do save money. Right. They are environmentally friendly. but they do save money. And that, I mean, really at the end of the day, I need to be able to pay my people, right? So saving money is really important to us. And the environmentally friendly part is just the extra benefit. So I do think there will be a lot more adoption, especially with the funding coming. I don't know how it's going to affect cattle farming. That's the only part that I don't really understand. I do know that there has been some money allocated. Livestock is generally one of those hardest hit industries. I think they've had a lot of trouble with the drought. So I am interested to see what is going to be available to them.
Yeah, I believe there are NRCS programs also kind of in action with trough watering, and because again, about half of our documentary, we spoke with Adam Chappell about row crop farming, but we also spoke with goat farmers and cattle farmers, and there are programs that they're putting in place through the NRCS that I think protects soil and allows them to operate more cheaply.
Yeah. So I think we'll have a lot of adopting of these practices. I hope that makes a difference. Right. I mean, in terms of mitigating what's happening in terms of our changing climate, it's not going to be enough. Right. You can have every farmer adopt every conservation practice you want. It doesn't address the larger issue. It helps, though. Right.
Yeah, what did you say earlier? Like when you were at college, you realized farmers were what % of the population?
Oh, like 1% of the labor force? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
There are not that many of us.
Right, yeah. So 1% of the labor force probably can't right the ship completely, but
no,
we can certainly make choices that'll be easier on the planet and easier on the pocketbook.
Yeah, and I mean, farmers, we're a pretty politically powerful group considering we're only 1% of the labor force. If we make a change, if we step up and say, this is something that's important to us, this is our livelihood at risk, I would hope that other industries would say, we are supporting American farmers and making changes in our industry too.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Visit arpbs.org for more stories and content like this from Arkansas PBS.